Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. I'm Dr. Imran Mir. In this audio-visual presentation, I will discuss cultural, social, personal, and psychological factors that affect consumers' buying behavior. In the light of theories, concepts, and practical examples, consumer behavior will be analyzed and recommendations will be made for marketers. Analyzing consumer markets. In order to be successful in today's hyper-competitive environment, marketers must identify consumer needs and wants and satisfy them better than the competitor. The behavior which consumers exhibit in buying, consuming, and disposing of a product is not a sudden conduct or action. It's not simple that a consumer recognized a need, went to the marketplace, and bought a product to satisfy it. There are a host of factors that influence and shape consumers' buying behavior. To satisfy the target customers better than competitor, marketers need to understand how consumers think, feel, and act. Marketers need to identify and understand what factors guide and influence consumer behavior. Consumer behavior is how consumers select, buy, use, and dispose of a product to satisfy their needs and wants. Research shows that cultural, social, and personal factors influence consumer behavior and psychological processes guide consumer behavior. Cultural factors that influence consumer behavior include culture, subculture, and social classes. Culture is the fundamental determinant of a person's wants and behavior. It means it is the culture that shapes consumer wants and influences consumer behavior to buy a certain product to satisfy a need. Culture is the set of basic values, beliefs, knowledge, morals, law, customs, traditions, norms, rituals, habits, etc. that a person acquires or learns as a member of a society from family and other institutions such as schools and religious institutions. Through family and other important institutions, person as a child is exposed to cultural values and norms. For example, in Pakistan, when a child is growing up, he or she is exposed to the cultural values such as respect elders, interdependence, obedience, etc. In Western cultures, especially in USA, when a child is growing up, he or she is exposed to the values such as independence, achievement, success, freedom, individualism, material comfort, etc. These cultural values influence consumer behavior. For example, in USA, teenage girls can buy and wear miniskirts without giving it a second thought what other people would think or say. In fact, they buy and wear miniskirts in public. This is because how they have been socialized as children in that culture. In Pakistan, being a female thinking of wearing miniskirts in public means inviting trouble. I'm not making cultural comparison. I'm not glorifying one culture and vilifying another. I am trying to highlight that the consumer behavior is the reflection of his or her culture. Consumers usually buy what is acceptable in their cultural system. I just quoted one example. Culture is complex whole. If marketers want to satisfy consumer needs better than their competitor in a society, they must closely study the cultural value system of that society. Generally speaking, in Western cultures, when a child reaches legal age, he or she is free to choose their destiny, while in cultures like Pakistan, family or parents choose the destiny for their children. Let me put it in simple words. In Western cultures, grown-up children themselves plan their future goals, while in cultures like Pakistan, parents plan what their children should do. In short, in different societies, marketers are not just dealing with an individual, they are dealing with a culture. Within each culture, subcultures or microcultures or cultural segments exist. Subcultures are groups of people within a larger culture who often share a value system, beliefs or interests that differentiate them from the larger or the parent culture. Subcultures include nationalities, religions, racial groups, and geographic regions. For example, within the larger Pakistani culture, different subcultures such as Punjabi culture, Sindhi culture, Pakhtun culture, and Balochi culture exist. The people belonging to these cultures have their own way of living or social identification. Food, which people eat, is an obvious aspect of culture. People belonging to different subcultures of Pakistan vary in the food they eat. Similarly, based on ethnicity, in USA different microcultures exist. For instance, Native Americans, Hispanic Americans, African Americans, Asian Americans, etc. These groups exhibit different consumer behaviors. For example, Asian Americans prefer to cook with fresh food rather than canned or frozen food. When these subcultures grow in size and importance, marketers develop different market offerings and programs for them. This is called multicultural marketing. Multicultural marketing recognizes that different cultural segments within a larger culture have different needs and wants, and require different marketing strategies and programs. So it's not only the national culture of a country which marketers need to understand, they also need to understand subcultures within a larger culture. Based on the understanding of larger culture, a company may not assume that all the consumers in that society would like their product. In order to be successful in influencing consumer behavior in a society, marketers need to understand value systems of cultural segments that exist in a larger culture of a society. Particularly, marketers need to pay special attention to the religion of people, because people's connection with religion is emotional, and therefore it has immense impact on consumer behavior. Religion is an important part of a culture. People belonging to same religion living in different countries or cultural contexts cannot be assumed to have same habits and way of living. For example, Muslims living in Arab countries wear different dresses than Muslims living in Asian and Western countries. Similarly, Asian Muslim cuisine is different than Arab Muslim cuisine, except one thing is common in all Muslim cuisines, that is, it must be halal. The impact of culture is deep down into the skin. Even if all people belonging to the different cultures wear same dresses and eat same food, their thinking would never be the same. Culture impacts people's thinking and emotions. How consumers respond to the marketing activities of a company depends on their mindset, which is shaped by the culture they belong to. Social classes, another important cultural factor which influences consumer behavior, is social classes. Social classes are a relatively permanent and ordered division or stratification in a society whose members share and exhibit similar values, interests, and behaviors. Social stratification exists almost in all human societies. For example, In Pakistan, three social classes exist: lower class, middle class, and upper class. In USA, they have identified 7 social classes, and in India, they have their own hierarchy of social classes. For example, the ancient social stratification in Indian society, which still exists today, is Brahmins, priestly people, Kshatriyas, rulers, administrators, and warriors, Vaishyas, artisans, merchants, tradesmen, and farmers, Shudras, laboring class, and Dalits or untouchable, street cleaners. Different variables and criteria are used in different societies to determine social class. For example, in 1988, India developed socio-economic classification system known as SEC classification. According to this social stratification, urban society of India is segmented into 7 groups, ranging A1 to E2, while rural society was segmented into 4 groups, ranging from R1 to R4. In urban areas, for social stratification, education and occupation were used as criteria, and in rural areas, education and type of house owned by the person were used as criteria for social stratification. In Pakistan, the old Western social stratification hierarchy, that is lower class, middle class, and upper class, exists. The criteria which determines to which social class a person belongs to in Pakistan is not education or occupation. It is power and paisa. A consumer with no power and money means he belongs to lower class. A consumer who struggles for power and money belongs to the middle class. A consumer who has power and money belongs to the upper class. Marketers need to understand social classes because they affect consumer preferences, choices, and behaviors. The impact of social class on a consumer's preferences and choices can be noted in different areas such as clothing, home furnishing, leisure activities, automobiles, and media preferences. For instance, the consumers belonging to the upper class in Pakistan like to own automobile brands such as Land Cruiser, BMW, Mercedes, Rolls-Royce, etc. because these brands indicate power and paisa. Pakistani consumers belonging to the middle class prefer to watch talk shows on mainstream media because they are looking for the change. Pakistani consumers belonging to the lower class spend their time watching Indian movies. They do not expect change in their lives. The structure of social classes is rigid in Asian countries or societies as compared to the Western societies. In Asian societies like Pakistan, a person can't move from lower class to middle class and from middle class to the upper class. In Western societies, a person can move from one social class to another depending on his capabilities, work, and performance. In a Western society, if a person fails to perform well, he or she may find him or herself on the ground, in lower class. In Asian cultures like Pakistan, once a person becomes a member of upper class, this membership is for a lifetime. The reason is the criteria which determines social classes in different societies. Social factors. Besides cultural factors, social factors, for example, reference groups, family, and social roles and status influence consumer behavior. Reference groups. Reference groups of a person include all individuals and groups that have a direct face-to-face or indirect influence on his or her attitude and behavior. Or you may say, reference groups are those individuals whose views influence a person's attitude and behavior. A person's reference groups could vary in size and may include just few family members or close friends. A person's reference groups are classified into three groups. Membership groups. Membership groups are those groups to which a person belongs and they have a direct influence on his or her attitude and behavior. For example, family, friends, and relatives, etc. Membership groups are further divided into two groups, primary groups and secondary groups. Primary groups include those people with whom a person interacts continuously and informally, such as family members, friends, and relatives. Let me put it in simple words. Primary reference groups include those people with whom a person meets daily. For example, family members, close friends, roommates, etc. These people have strong and direct influence on a person's attitudes and buying decisions. The reason is these people have a significant importance in a person's life. When a person is confused about a purchase, primary reference groups give him or her feelings that they are with him or her and helps in finalizing a purchase decision. These people give a person honest and clear advice and he or she feels confident about the purchase. For example, if you are planning to buy a new mobile handset but are not clear which brand to buy, if your close friend recommends you a mobile handset brand, you may feel confident in purchasing that mobile handset brand. Secondary groups of a person include those people with whom his or her interaction is formal and less frequent, such as religious groups, professional groups, trade unions, study groups, sports teams, etc. A secondary group is relatively larger. A person's relationship with a secondary group is impersonal and goal-oriented. These groups are often based on achieving a common purpose outside of the relationship itself and involve much less emotional investment. Although a person has a less or infrequent and formal interaction with a secondary group, the people included in a secondary group can indirectly influence a person's buying decision and brand choices. For example, if you are a member of a business or professional group, when you interact with that group, you are exposed to what dresses they wear, what mobile phones they use. If you decide to buy a new formal dress, your exposure to what the secondary group members had worn in the last meeting may influence your brand choice. Identifying reference groups are important for marketers because they influence consumers' attitudes, self-concept, and buying decisions. Furthermore, they expose an individual to new lifestyles and behaviors. In addition, they create pressures for conformity that may affect consumers' product and brand choices. Aspirational groups. People are also influenced by groups to which they do not belong. Those groups are called aspirational groups, the groups to which a person wishes to join. For example, many teenager boys want to join Pakistani national cricket team. For those teenager boys, Pakistani cricket team is an aspirational group. Similarly, some people like certain celebrities and wish to become like them. They even try to dress like them, act like them, and even think the way the members of that group do. And most importantly, they purchase those products which are endorsed by their favorite actors or celebrities. Dissociative groups are those groups whose values or behavior an individual rejects. In other words, a person doesn't want to be identified with a group, so he or she rejects their values. For example, if people don't like a particular community, they would never like being connected to them. So they would try all the possible means to avoid the way how a dissociative group members dress, think, or act. Where a reference group's influence is strong, marketers must determine how to reach and influence the group's opinion leaders. Opinion leaders are the individuals who are considered experts and knowledgeable by the people around them. Once marketers identify opinion leaders, they can use them to recommend marketers' product or brand to the people around them or the people who follow their advice. Once marketers identify opinion leaders in a reference group, they can direct messages to them. Marketers can influence them. In turn, they can influence the people around them or their followers. For example, marketers use public figures or celebrities in marketing communication campaigns to endorse the products. The people who like those celebrities and want to be like them, they buy those products. Family. Family members can strongly influence a person's buying behavior. Family members are the most influential primary reference group of a person, as a person has close and emotional bond with his or her family, so their influence can be stronger on his or her buying behavior as compared to the other reference groups. There are two families in the buyer's life: the family of orientation and the family of procreation. The family of orientation consists of a person's parents and siblings. It is the parents from whom a person as a child and then growing up child gets the orientation of important affairs of life and society, such as religion, politics, economics, and sense of personal ambition, self-worth, and love. Thus, the influence of parents on people or buyers' attitude and behavior can be substantial. Even if a person's parents are no more in this world, or if he or she no longer interacts frequently with them, their influence on the person's attitude and behavior can still be significant. Even the memories with parents as a child can influence a grown-up person's purchase decisions. For example, while purchasing a less expensive product such as a shirt might refresh the memories of a person that his parents liked him to wear the blue color shirts. That sudden recall or of beautiful memory may influence that person to buy a blue color shirt. Marketers should understand it. In fact, marketers understand the fact that sometimes buyers' seemingly illogical behaviors have a long emotional history behind them, which ordinary people cannot realize. The family of procreation consists of a person's spouse and children. Spouse and children have a more direct influence on a person's purchase decision in case of some product categories. For example, when a man is purchasing a car, his children may influence about the color of the car. Likewise, a man's wife may influence him to buy new furniture. Husband-wife engagement in purchases varies widely by product category. In purchases such as food, clothing items, wife may have more say than a husband, while in case of expensive product purchases such as cars, houses, etc., husband plays the main role. He may be the key decision maker. However, marketers must be cautious. The role of husband-wife in purchase decisions varies from culture to culture. For example, in Asian societies like Pakistan, in case of expensive purchases such as houses, a man pays more attention to the advice of his parents, especially father, rather than his wife. It does not mean a wife does not influence a husband's behavior in case of expensive purchases. In some Asian cultures, even extended family members such as grandparents and uncles are also consulted before buying expensive products such as houses. However, due to the change in the value systems, the situation is different in Western cultures, especially in the USA. In addition, family structures in different cultures differ in many respects. For example, in Muslim societies like Pakistan, man is responsible for earning the bread and butter of his family. In majority cases, not only wife and children depends on a man, but his parents too. In some cases, a man not only supports his family of procreation and family of orientation, but also provides for extended family. Generally, in Western societies like USA, all adult members of a family take financial responsibility. In simple words, both husband and wife do outdoor jobs to financially support the family. Generally, in Asian cultures and particularly in Muslim societies, man does outdoor jobs to financially support the family, while a woman is responsible for taking care of household activities and children. Because of the differences in the roles of men and women in Asian societies, husband may have relatively more say in case of majority purchase decisions than wife. However, as a result of globalization and the internet, exposure to Western value systems has influenced the Asian and Muslim societies, and so their family values and structure. In major cities of Asian societies like Pakistan, along husband wife too does outdoor jobs to financially support the family. These changes in gender roles may give more power to women to influence family purchase decisions in Asian societies. Marketers must take these cultural shifts in view while developing marketing programs for consumers of different societies. Role and status. A person belongs to many groups in a society, such as family, organization, social or professional groups. A person's position in each group can be defined in terms of both role and status. Role contains the activities which a person is expected to perform by the people around him or her. For example, a person plays the role of father in his family. He plays the role of a manager in an organization. And in a social club, his role may be a president. Each role carries a status. Status is the prestige given to a role by the society. A person selects and buys those products which reflects his or her status in a society. For example, if a person is a manager in an organization, he will buy formal suits or clothing that would reflect his role and status in that organization. Marketers must be aware of the status symbol potential of products and brands because they influence consumer behavior. Personal factors. Besides cultural and social factors, several personal factors such as age, stages in the life cycle, occupation, economic circumstances, personality, self-concept, and lifestyle influence a person's buying behavior. Marketers need to observe personal factors of buyers closely because they have a direct influence on their buying behavior. For example, people's taste and preferences in different products such as food, clothes, furniture are age-related. Consumer tastes and preferences change with the changing age. Consumption patterns are also shaped by the family life cycle and the number, age, and gender of people in the household at any point in time. Family life cycle is the stage through which a family goes with the passage of time. At each stage, a family needs and preferences change. At each stage of family life cycle changes take place due to changes in demographics and critical life events or transitions such as marriage, having children, purchasing a home, children going to college, changes in personal income, moving out of the house and retirement. Marketers often define their target markets in terms of life cycle stages and develop appropriate products and marketing plans for each stage. There are different models which are used to describe family life cycle stages, but the most common categorization of family life cycle stages are bachelor stage, newly married couple, full nest 1, full nest 2, full nest 3, empty nest, and solitary survivor. At a bachelor stage of family life cycle, people are usually interested in appearance. They tend to spend money more in fashionable clothing and vehicles. In addition, impulsive buying and premium buying are common characteristics of the bachelor stage. At the newly married couple stage of family life cycle, the new married couples are considered to be in a better financial position in the initial stage due to the absence of children. Thus, their buying decisions focus on quality and not quantity. Once married, people become less prone to impulsive decisions. At full nest 1 stage of family life cycle, a young married couple has a child. With the arrival of the first child, family needs and preferences change. At this stage, a family usually engages in buying the products for the child such as furniture, baby food, toys, cough medicine, etc. At full nest 2 stage of family life cycle, an older married couple has children. At this stage, the first child has usually now school going. Family consumption patterns change at this stage. They start buying and consuming products in larger quantity as family has grown in numbers. At this stage, family consumption patterns are influenced by children, and family tends to buy large sized packages of food and cleaning supplies, bicycles, clothing, sports equipments, and a computer. At the full nest stage 3 family life cycle stage, older married couple is in their 40s and children are grown up, college going, but dependent on parents. At this stage, parents spend more on buying supplies such as additional computer system for their grown-up children. At empty nest family life cycle stage, older couple with no children living with them. At this stage, children have either their own families or doing jobs away from home. However, this situation differs from society to society. At this stage, older couple is retired and their expenses are usually restricted to activities such as self-improvement and medical care. The last stage of a family life cycle can consist of either a widow or a widower who is retired. At this stage, a person's main focus is on accommodation and medication. Occupation. Occupation, which can be defined as means of earning a living, also influences a person's buying behavior and consumption patterns. For example, blue-collar workers tend to buy more rugged work clothes, whereas executives buy more business suits. Marketers try to identify the occupational groups that have an above-average interest in their products and services. A company can even specialize in making products needed by a given occupational group. For example, computer software companies, for example, design different products for brand managers, engineers, lawyers, and physicians. Economic circumstances or situation. A person's economic situation will affect his or her store and product choices. For example, if a person's economic situation is sound, he or she may buy quality products from exclusive shopping stores or malls, and vice versa. Marketers watch trends in personal income, savings, and interest rates because these things affect consumers' buying behavior. With the changing economic circumstances of consumers, marketers redesign their market offerings and strategies. For example, during a recession, a company might reduce the product price to maintain the customers. Lifestyle, another important personal factor which affects consumer behavior is lifestyle. Lifestyle refers to the way a consumer lives, or lifestyle is a person's pattern or way of living as expressed in his or her activities. For example, work, hobbies, shopping, sports, social events, interests, for example, food, fashion, family, recreation, and opinions about themselves, social issues, businesses, and products. Lifestyle represents what a person values in his or her life. This value is reflected in the way that a person spends his or her time and money. It profiles a person's whole pattern of acting and interacting in the world. People from the same subculture, social class, and occupation may lead quite different lifestyles. Marketers search for relationships between their products and lifestyle groups. For example, a computer manufacturer might find that most computer buyers are achievement-oriented and then aim the brand more clearly at that achiever lifestyle. Lifestyles are partly a money constraint or time constraint. Consumers with money-constrained lifestyle do not have sufficient income level to buy several products. To target the money-constrained lifestyle consumer segments, companies develop low-priced market offerings. Some companies use everyday lower prices on several items so that money-constrained consumers can buy those items. In case of everyday lower pricing strategy, a company sells certain items at the lower price or at the price which is less than the stated price or list price, the price which is written on the product. Even in Pakistan now several local stores apply everyday lower pricing strategy. Time-constrained consumers have money, but they do not have time to buy the products. Such consumers are generally engaged in multitasking, doing two or more things at the same time. Time is important for them. They pay others to perform several tasks for them. To serve this time-constrained consumer lifestyle segment, companies develop convenient products and services such as packaged food, home delivery services, etc. In short, lifestyle affects consumer behavior. Consumers usually buy those products and from those companies whose market offerings match their lifestyle. Personality. Each person has a unique personality. People usually buy those products which match their personalities. For example, a consumer with sensation-seeking personality would engage in extreme and risky activities. Such consumers would like to buy the sports cars, racing bikes, etc. Personality refers to unique psychological characteristics and qualities of a person that makes a person different than others and lead to a consistent response to environmental stimuli. These unique characteristics and qualities of a person are reflected by his or her behavior in different situations. Consistency in response means that people act in the same or similar way in a variety of situations. Personality is usually described in terms of traits or characteristics such as self-confidence, dominance, sociability, autonomy, defensiveness, adaptability, and aggressiveness. Personality can be useful in analyzing consumer behavior for certain products or brand choices. Companies create brand personalities because consumers choose those brands whose personalities match their own. Brand personality refers to the mix of human characteristics assigned to a brand. Through marketing communications such as advertising, marketers create an image of brand's personality in consumers' mind. For example, the personality of Nike is excitement, and Gucci's brand personality is sophistication. People who like excitement might buy Nike's shoes. Female consumers who like sophistication might buy Gucci's leather bags. Self-concept. Self-concept or self-image is an important personal factor which affects consumer behavior. Self-concept is a person's perception about him or herself, or it is our mental conception of who we are. Self-concept can be classified into four types. Actual self-concept, that is how we see ourselves. Ideal self-concept, how we would like to see ourselves. Social self-concept, that is how we think others see us. Ideal social self-concept, how we would like others to see us. Consumers choose and buy those products and brands which support their self-concepts or which helps them to express their self-identity to others. For example, if a person thinks that he is athletic, he might buy Nike's trousers and shoes to express his self-image to others. The effects of self-concept are more prominent for publicly used products than for privately used products. Key psychological processes. Besides aforementioned factors, 4 key psychological processes influence consumer behavior and purchase decisions: motivation, perception, learning, and memory. Motivation. Human beings have many needs at any given time. Some human needs are biogenic. They arise from the physiological states of tension, such as hunger, thirst, or discomfort, while some needs are psychogenic. They arise from psychological states of tension such as the need for recognition, esteem, or belonging. When a need is aroused in intensity, it drives a person to act and is known as a motive. Motivation is defined as an inner state of arousal which provides a person direction for achieving a goal, as well as it provides energy or intensity with which a person pursues the goal. Or you may say that motivation is an inner state that activates and directs a person's behavior to find a solution for an aroused need. There are several theories which explain motivations behind human behavior. However, I will discuss only hierarchy of needs approach, a motivation theory proposed by Abraham Maslow. According to Abraham Maslow, humans satisfy their needs in a hierarchy from most important or most pressing to least important or least pressing. Abraham Maslow presented the 5 levels of human needs in a hierarchy, that is, physiological needs, for example, food, water; safety needs, for example, security, protection; social needs, for example, affection, friendship, and acceptance; esteem needs, for example, self-esteem, recognition, and status; and self-actualization needs, for example, self-development and realization. According to Abraham Maslow, consumers first satisfy lower level needs, for example, need for food, water, etc., then satisfy higher level needs, for example, social needs. No doubt, Abraham Maslow's theory provides a useful framework to marketers to understand consumer needs. The opponents of Abraham Maslow's theory say that it's not necessary that consumers will satisfy their needs in a hierarchical order. People can satisfy more than one need simultaneously. For example, a person can buy safe food or bottled water, or a person can buy a pair of shoes which is comfortable and in fashion. In this way, a person can satisfy more than one need at a time. Despite this criticism, Abraham Maslow's theory is of vital importance for marketers. For instance, entire fashion and cosmetics industry is based on the social needs of consumers. If there are no social needs, there would be no need of fashion and cosmetic products. Similarly, Nike's well-known slogan, "Just do it," is based on self-actualization need of consumers. This slogan encourages athletes that you have the potential to win. Many of you would have seen that Nike shows world's #1 athletes in their advertising. They are the athletes who have realized their full potential and achieved the first place in the world of sports. Perception. A motivated person is ready to act. How the person acts is influenced by his or her own perception of the situation. In marketing, perceptions are more important than reality because perceptions affect consumers' actual behavior. Perception is the process by which people select, organize, and interpret information inputs to create a meaningful picture of the world. People receive information from the environment through their senses: sight, hearing, smell, touch, and taste. People can form different perceptions of the same object because of 3 perceptual processes: selective attention, selective distortion, and selective retention. Selective attention. People are exposed to huge amount of stimuli or information every day. It is estimated that the average person may be exposed to over 1,500 ads or brand communications a day via television, magazines, billboards, social media, internet, mobile texts, store displays, etc. Since people cannot pay attention to all information or stimuli, they screen most of the information. This process is known as selective attention. In other words, people focus their attention on a selective information or stimuli, while they ignore the rest of the information or stimuli. In simple words, they allocate their mental activity to some information or stimuli. Marketers' challenge is to know how to attract consumers' attention towards their stimuli, for example, ads. Research shows that three factors affect consumers' attention. 1. People are more likely to notice stimuli that relate to their current need. For example, if a person is motivated to buy a laptop, he will pay attention to laptop ads than mobile handset ads. 2. People are more likely to notice stimuli they anticipate. A person who is motivated to buy a laptop is likely to notice laptops than printers in a computer shop or store, because he has anticipated that in a computer store there would be only PCs and laptops. 3. People are more likely to notice stimuli whose deviations are larger in relationship to the normal size of the stimuli. For example, people are more likely to notice ad offerings 25% discount on a laptop than one offering 5% off. Selective distortion. Even if the people notice the marketer's stimuli or information, the problem is people tend to interpret the information or stimuli according to their own preconceptions or existing mindset. This is called selective distortion. In selective distortion, consumers twist the information if it is inconsistent with their existing brand beliefs. For example, if a person likes Dell laptop, if he watches an ad of Apple laptop, he is going to ignore good points about the Apple shown in the ad. He is going to think that Dell is as good as Apple, if not better. Selective retention. Consumers do not remember all the information to which they are exposed. They retain or remember only that part of the information which is consistent with their beliefs and attitudes. This is called selective retention. For example, consumers remember good points about their favorite brand while they forget good points about the competing brands which they do not like. Because of selective attention, distortion and retention, marketers must work hard just to get their message through. Learning. Learning is another important psychological process which influences consumer behavior. Learning describes changes in an individual's behavior arising from experience. Most human behavior is learned, although much learning is incidental. Learning is produced through the interplay of drives, stimuli, cues, responses, and reinforcement. For example, when a consumer's need is aroused in intensity, it becomes a drive or motive. A drive forces a person to act and guides him how to find a solution to satisfy the aroused need. To find the solution, consumers search for information about products and services. Through stimuli, for example, advertising, and cues, for example, store displays, product packages, marketers guide consumers about the products and services that might satisfy their aroused needs. Based on the cues provided by the marketers, consumers may buy a certain product to satisfy the aroused need, that is, response. If consumer is satisfied, he or she might repeat this behavior in future purchase decisions, which took place as a result of stimuli and cues provided by marketers. This is called reinforcement. Two popular theories, classical conditioning and operant or instrumental conditioning, are used by marketers to teach consumers about their products and brands. The classical conditioning theory assumes that when an unknown stimulus or entity with known stimulus or entity is repeatedly shown to the consumers after some exposures, consumers start recognizing that unknown stimulus or entity. For example, in a TV commercial, advertisers show new products or brands with well-known celebrities to the target consumers. After watching that TV or television commercial a couple of times, consumers start recognizing that particular product or brand. This is how marketers bring change in consumer behavior. Operant conditioning theory assumes that consumers learn about products to avoid punishment, that is loss, and receive award, that is value for their money. For example, consumers actively search for information about a product so that their money is not wasted and their need is satisfied. Through this process, they learn about different products and brands which can satisfy certain needs. Learning can also lead to generalization and discrimination. For example, a consumer buys an HP laptop. If his experience is rewarding or good, he may reinforce his response to HP positively. Later, if he needs a printer, he may assume that HP's printers will be as good as their laptops. This is called generalization. Every market leader or big company wants their customers to generalize their good experience with one product to the other products of the company. But consumers may also learn that if HP's laptops are good, it does not mean that their printers will be also good. This is called discrimination. Every market challenger, a rival company which is smaller than market leader but competes it, wants every customer to discriminate between the products. Discrimination increases the chances that consumers will buy some of their products. Marketers also need to carefully teach consumers about their products to avoid consumers' hedonic bias. Hedonic bias is the consumer's tendency to blame others in case of failure and attribute success to themselves. Sometimes consumers fail to properly use the product and they blame the company. To save themselves from such situations, company provides detailed instructions on product packaging, provide instructional manuals, use instructive ads and websites, etc. Memory. According to cognitive psychology, there are two types of memory: short-term memory, STM, a temporary and limited repository of information, and long-term memory, LTM, a relatively permanent and unlimited repository. All the information that people receive and all experiences that people make through their lives end up in their long-term memory. It's also believed that long-term memory is durable and decays slowly. A well-known model to understand the structure of human memory is known as associative network memory model. According to associative network memory model, long-term memory is a set of nodes and links. Nodes are stored information connected by links that vary in strength. Any type of information can be stored in the memory network, including verbal, visual, abstract, and contextual. Spread activation determines the strength of association between different nodes in memory. For example, when a person thinks about a product, all strongly associated information nodes related to that product activate. Brand information exists in the consumer's memory in the form of associations. Brand associations consist of all brand-related thoughts, feelings, perceptions, images, experiences, beliefs, attitudes, and so on that become linked to the brand node in memory. Marketers need to make sure that strong, favorable, and unique brand associations exist in consumers' memory. If strong, favorable, and unique brand associations exist in consumers' memory, there are chances that in a certain purchase or consumption situation, a company's brand will pop up in consumers' mind. Memory processes. There are two memory processes: memory encoding and memory retrieval. Memory encoding describes how and where information gets into memory. The strength of association depends on how much a consumer thinks about a product when he receives the information about it, and the manner in which he thinks about the product information. For example, when a consumer is exposed to brand information, if he thinks more about that brand and in a positive way, chances are that stronger and favorable brand associations will take place in consumers' memory. It is suggested that marketers should repeatedly provide detailed and right brand information to consumers in order to create strong, favorable, and unique brand associations in their memory. Memory retrieval. How information gets out of memory. Three factors can affect memory retrieval process. 1. The presence of competing products in the memory can produce the interference and confuse the consumer. Different brands from the same product category mix up in the memory. Marketers need to provide cues to help consumers to retrieve the brand information from memory. 2. The time between exposure to brand information and encoding may create issue at retrieval. For example, if a person sees a brand ad today and thinks about it after a few days, he may have forgotten some important information. The possibility is it may create problem at the time of retrieval. 3. Information may be available in memory but not accessible for recall without the proper retrieval cues or reminders. That is why marketers provide cues like mini billboards, displays, buntings, posters, banners in store to help consumers to retrieve the brand information. These were some of the key psychological processes that, combined with other factors, influence consumer behavior. The consumer buying decision process, the five-stage model. Five-stage model of consumer buying decision process is applied in case of high involvement purchases or non-routine purchases such as a refrigerator, automobiles, etc. In case of low involvement routine purchases such as toothpaste, soap, etc., consumers skip many stages of buying decision process. For example, in case of routinely used products such as toothpaste, consumers recognize the purchase need and directly make the purchase decision. Skip information search and evaluation stages. 1. Problem or need recognition. The buying process starts when the consumer recognizes a need or problem. A need can be triggered by internal stimulus, for instance, thirst, hunger, or external stimulus. For example, a person might be influenced by a TV car ad and start thinking to purchase a car. Marketers need to identify all possible circumstances that trigger a particular need marketers can do so by collecting information from a number of consumers. Based on that information, they can develop strategies to develop consumers' interest in their product. 2. Information search. Once a consumer has recognized the purchase need, he or she starts searching for information about possible solutions and alternate brands. A consumer can use personal information sources, for example, family, friends, neighbors, etc., commercial sources such as advertising, websites, salespersons, dealers, packaging, displays, etc., public sources, for instance, mass media, consumer rating organizations, and can examine the product him or herself. However, the use of different information sources varies from product category to product category. Generally speaking, consumers receive most of the information from commercial sources, but they make a decision based on the information received from personal sources, as they consider personal sources honest and reliable. 3. Evaluation of alternatives. At evaluation stage, consumers evaluate different alternate options, solutions, or brands which they have identified at information search stage. However, there is no single criterion to evaluate alternate brands or solutions. The evaluation criterion varies from consumer to consumer and from purchase to purchase. For instance, some consumers may use price as a criteria for evaluation of alternatives. Some may use product quality and features. Some may use product benefits they are looking for, while others may use company's reputation and image, and so on. One thing is obvious, that whatever criteria consumers apply to evaluate alternate solutions and brands, most of their judgments are conscious and logical. 4. Purchase decision. At purchase decision stage, consumers may make several decisions. 1. They may form intentions to buy the preferred brand. 2. They may execute the purchase intentions or actually buy the product. 3. They may decide about the dealer or retailer or store where from to purchase the product. 4. They may decide about product quantity, for example, to buy one product unit. They may decide about purchase timing, for example, weekend. And they may decide about payment method, for example, cash or credit card. 5. Post-purchase behavior. After purchasing a product, consumer can either be satisfied or dissatisfied. Sometimes even a minor thing, for example, consumer might hear from a friend favorable things about the competing brand, and that can create dissonance or dissatisfaction. Therefore, marketers should keep in contact with the consumer even after the sale of the product. Marketers should continuously communicate benefits of the product and encourage consumers that they have made the right decision by purchasing their company's product. This was today's topic of discussion. Please subscribe, like and share this video. Allah Hafiz.